Bosh! Hello, Ramblers. Was that a bit aggressive? I'm sorry if it was. What is it? It is Wednesday, the 30th of July, 2025, which of course means that it is time for episode 62 of Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. And my goodness, do we have a lot to cover? We, of course, are in the summer scheduling of the podcast, in that it is not Mullinger's Weekly Ramble, but it is Mullinger's. We're not going to get into the whole bi-weekly, fortnightly debate, but it's every 2 weeks. So I've got 2 weeks of action to pack into the next hour, and I do have precisely 1 hour. It is 8:52 a.m., and at 9:52 a.m. I need to be pulling out of the driveway to head to Garden Grove Cafe to see my dear friends Christina Martin and Jessica Ray, two of the greatest musicians, singer-songwriters and performing artists that this region has ever seen. And it's been an eventful couple of weeks, and it's not supposed to be an eventful couple of weeks in summertime, is it? Summertime is supposed to be a quiet time. As you can imagine, in my life, when I plan things to be quiet, that doesn't quite happen. And so we have lots to cover in terms of, I have been through one of the most physically painful experiences of my life. This time a week ago, I looked like a cross between the Elephant Man and mid-transformation Mrs. Doubtfire. So true, this happened. After obviously going to Garden Grove Cafe to see Jessica and Christina, I am then hot-footing it to beautiful St. Peter's Bay, Prince Edward Island, to play the Courthouse Theatre tomorrow night. If you are coming to the show tomorrow night, I say that the show is sold out, but if you are coming, I have wonderful news, which is that my opening act / special guest is going to be one of the best comedians in Canada, who also happens to be an Islander. Sean Hogan is an absolute barnstormer. If you ever heard the Just for Laughs album that we all recorded here in St. John, New Brunswick a few years ago, Sean was on that, and Sean is actually playing the Courthouse Theatre in a couple of weeks with another of the best comedians in the country, Matt Wright. Anyway, so busy times, busy couple of weeks to fill in, so much going on in the world. Epstein, Trump, Happy Gilmore too. Those things all very similar. Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson might be dating. I mean, that is the news that we all need. I'm not going to use that phrase. When does a phrase become the phrase I'm thinking of here? Because I was tempted to use it just then. The old that wasn't on my bingo card for 2025. How is it that certain phrases can be fresh and new, but then due to overuse by idiots, they just become immediately. To me, the that wasn't on my bingo card is the new what's up. Remember that? On what's up seems like the kind of joke that, and I mean this with all the fondness in the world. It seems like the kind of joke that could have been trotted out in Happy Gilmore too. Should we start with Happy Gilmore? The long-awaited, like most people, I'm a huge fan of Happy Gilmore, the original. I'm also an admirer of the work of Sandler. I mean, of course, there is a lot to be said for any creator, filmmaker, comedian who can create things. Of course, also, I mean, let's face it, an incredible actor, as proven in some of those amazing movies like Uncut Gems and Punch Drunk Love. But there's something to be said for a filmmaker for whom you can put on their movies and it's going to make a 7-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 47-year-old, and a 50-year-old. I'll let you guess who those people are. All laugh. So, well, I guess before we go any further, let's start with our sponsor. This is our final week with our current sponsor. We do have an exciting announcement next week about our next sponsor. So, I've been messing around a bit. I'm going to get profesh for a minute, if you don't mind, right? I should point out one of the other exciting developments that we're going to have coming up in this episode is last night. Many of you on this show will have heard. I mean, I'm buzzing right now. Can you tell I'm buzzing? It's not even 9 a.m. I couldn't get to sleep till about 2 a.m. for a combination of reasons. One, Willow kept needing to go out into the garden, and I'm not quite sure why. Just messing with me, I think. You know, the dog, when you think they need the loo and they go outside, they just stand there and they walk around and they bark. Anyway, the other reason was I was absolutely buzzing from last night's gig at Hampton Brewing Company. I know I've talked about Hampton Brewing Company before on this podcast, but it really is a phenomenal story. Phenomenal success story. The owners, Simon, Mike and team, and just, a group of mates from Hampton High who enjoyed making beer together, and then decided to open a brewery, and the brewery turned into a tap room, and the tap room turned into a performing arts venue which attracts artists from all over now, routinely are often getting up to 200 people. When they're Pretty in Pink there a few weeks ago, 200 people there in the outside area now, where there's this glorious stage. And Simon, I didn't know this, is also a carpenter, so he's kind of built it looks absolutely magical at that. I'll be posting pictures from last night all over my Facebooks very shortly. And the atmosphere they've created, so they now have an awning, like a removable roof that they can put on or off depending on it's raining, so shows can always go ahead. As you know, I have ups and downs in my job, as we all do in our lives. I have shows that, I'll be completely honest, last week I had 2 shows at the Yipsider Dome, one of my favourite places to perform, due to the infection/injury I'm going to be telling you about shortly. The shows went very well, but I wouldn't say I was on. I didn't walk away feeling the kind of the dopamine flooding of the brain buzz that I did last night after Hampton. It was just absolutely electric. Ethan was on fire. I had a really beautiful set. Ethan came on at the end. We had a huge sing song. The audience were on fire. Not to blame any other audiences, but it was just. And again, I mean, a lot of this is down to Hampton Brewing Company and everyone there. And I will say, I won't bang on too much, but because there was a big feature in the next volume of the Mailto Medic magazine, which is the fall issue, which is our very special art and design / art and culture. We haven't finished it yet. First ever art and design special issue, and some amazing features in there, including Caitlin Dean's phenomenal essay on the success of another performing arts phenomenon in this province, the Dooryard Arts Festival. Anyway, so I've interviewed all the people behind Hampton Brewing Company, and it's a feature in there. Anyway, sorry, sidetrack. What's my point? That's why I mean, this is the point. You've heard me on this podcast talk about Lady Catherine St. Pierre. Very, very grand name for a very, very grand lady. Now, Catherine St. Pierre is one of our only American listeners, which is a good thing too, considering what's coming up in a bit. We have one other American, another listener in America, which is my, one of my oldest and best friends in the world, Nick Butterworth, who is the husband of the musician B.T. Wolf. They are both based in Los Angeles, listening from there. Hi, Nick. But Catherine is possibly my only Florida listener. I often get approached by people at the YMCA who have just by chance met Catherine playing pickleball in Florida while they are there on. It's the YMCA. They're snowbirds, possibly the people I'm chatting with. Anyway, Catherine St. Pierre and her husband were at Hampton Brewing Company last night. So after a year of Catherine kind of listening to the podcast, messaging me, we finally got to meet in person. I'm sitting here right now looking at a beautiful knitted pickle that she gave me that is an emotional. I mean, again, she's listened to the podcast. She knows I've got problems. I've got it displayed next to, again, if this was one of those big American podcasts, I could hold it up on the video. We ain't got a video. I'm in your ears. I'm not in your eyes yet. That sounded weird. I have a Grumpy Bear little speaker that's one of these US Bluetooth speakers, which I don't know how to use because I'm a Luddite. I also have on my desk a tape recorder. That's how I listen to the music. I don't really know how to use Bluetooth, so I use the tape recorder to play cassette tapes. It's next to a box of Ladybird books, Book of Prayers, Ladybird Book of Hymns, plus every copy of the Mailto Medic. And in between is this emotional mental support pickle. I will always be your number one US fan to let you know that you're a big deal. And it is nice to be called a big deal. I mean, and by big deal, it's like meaning big deal pickle, I should be clear. I know deal is often used as an abbreviation for dildo. I don't think Catherine came all the way from Florida to call me a dildo, although that would be a highly amusing thing to do. It's the kind of thing someone would do in an Adam Sandler movie. We'll get back to that. I'm drinking a cup of Down East coffee, which is a Moncton coffee maker, Moncton coffee bean maker, coffee. There's definitely a word for this, which I don't think it's distributed. I think it's a bean. Are you a bean maker? The maker of the bean? Down East Coffee in Moncton. Anyway, Catherine, thank you. Catherine, a lovely card. I can't read it out because I don't read compliments on this podcast because I'm not in the Rogan sphere, or indeed almost every famous comedian podcast I listen to, where they basically spend an hour listening to Tom Segura's Hour of Why I'm the Greatest. Anyway, thank you, Catherine. It was so nice to meet you in person. It was a really magical moment. We anyway, I have the video of it, and just being able to meet in such a glorious gig. Again, I get, as you all know, I get nervous before every show. But when I hear, for example, that someone like Catherine, Catherine, I just want mommy messaging this, wrote to me when she first wrote to say that she listens to the podcast. She said something along the lines of, I've never really, very politely, but I haven't necessarily gelled with your stand-up before, but for some reason I find the podcast very funny. And of course, I mean, I don't take that as an insult at all. Two very, very different things, two different mediums. Equally, there are people. Well, here's an example. The Theo Von, from the bits of his podcast I have listened to or seen, because the Zuckerbergs thinks that I want to see lots of it. Despite the kind of the Trump supporting, I do find Theo Von's podcasting abilities highly commendable and skilled and seems to be decent. However, his stand-up, I find again, and this is not to say that I will never ever say a comedian is not funny. It's so weird on those Twitters and these comments of people whenever someone does yesterday there was a news article on the Daily Beast or something about how all the comedians that moved to Texas now regret it. They moved to Texas to follow Joe Rogan now regret it. Now it's a stupid article, like all these things are, because it's like three people. Tim Dillon and maybe Shane Gillis went there and then said something negative, and so all the comments are like, the only joke is saying Joe Rogan's a comedian. And it's like, well, you can't say he's not a comedian. You don't have to like him. But you can't say that someone that has sold out the Bell Centre and made those 20,000, granted, those 20,000 people that were laughing are not people I would necessarily want to have a cup of tea with. But you can't say he's not a comedian. Anyway, I will never say, but Theo Von's stand-up, I personally find not only not very funny, I also find it somewhat deplorable and misogynistic. Anyway, my opinion. We're all plenty of opinions. And also, the great thing with comedy is you can't control what makes you laugh. So if Lady Catherine, or indeed another lovely lady who approached me at Staples last week in Rossay, who is the daughter of some friends of mine. She was there with her daughter. She said, I love listening to your podcast, and kind of said the same thing. Never really liked your stand-up. Lots of people wanting to tell me how much they hate my stand-up. It's funny. But I do get it, right? Like the different art forms, and it is again, this is me, obviously the real me, and on stage is also me, but it's also a performance, and it's a honed, practiced, and who knows, maybe these people that don't like my prepared stand-up would enjoy the work in progress shows. I realise I'm banging up at myself a lot. This sounds anyway, let's move on. My point is, I finally got to meet, so I was nervous. Lady Catherine's coming. She's already said she hates my stand-up. She's coming to the gig, and I'm thinking, please God, don't let this be a bad gig. Please don't let this fall flat. And then she's like, oh, turns out I was right all along. And then of course I'm beating myself up, like, oh my goodness, I think she saw me at Harbour Station like 9 years ago. There's a couple of jokes which I from back then that I retired that I now have brought back, and they're longer and they're more honed. But one of the things I have learned in the last week was that last week at Yip, at the Yip Side of Dome shows, I was so determined to make it 90% new material that I was up there really pushing through, despite the fact that I knew that more than half the audience hadn't seen me before. I was really trying to push through and go, okay, no, I'm not going to do all the old, I'm not going to call them classics, but the old honed bits that work. I'm going to, and it was fine. But I did miss out on getting the big crescendo. And last night I looked out in the audience, and more than half, I think it's more than half, I would say, I people that I know have met at gigs. And Wanda, I saw you out there. Hi, Wanda. Again, I didn't see him until afterwards, but Gary Spicer was there. Lots of people that seen me before, but for some reason, for example, doing the because there was such an electric atmosphere, when I was doing the Dr. Scott pants routine, I'm looking out at the crowd and people are falling about, and I'm like, this routine is 10 years old, and granted it's been, it does take, Chris Rock and Seinfeld, they say it takes that long to hone a routine to again, I'm not calling it perfect, but to get a routine to, a semblance of perfection or whatever one's standard of perfection is. But I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Like, I can't believe, this is a routine which I feel embarrassed doing because I've been doing it for so long, but it's really landing. And I could push through and force myself to do the cock blocked by Mini Doodle routine or the EV carpet, but are they ready? Anyway, sorry, all of this is to say, this is 15 minutes in. Okay, I'm going to start off with a Profesh. See, Profesh, we have a sponsor. So anyway, the point is I got to meet Lady Catherine. It was really magical and the gig went beautiful and it was a really special moment. And we actually got to meet properly during the show. I was walking around the audience and asked where she was. And I was blown away actually because Lady Catherine is the mother of a highly skilled... Lady Catherine has, but they actually have 3 kids. But I worked with and I'm friends with their son, Emmett St. Pierre, who... Some of you will know Emmett used to work for Hemmings House here in St. John. Emmett is married, has a highly successful career now as a filmmaker, as an animator. Emmett was the editor on the CBC documentary City on Fire, which was probably it was definitely the first big thing that I did after moving here. If you haven't seen it, search City on Fire Mullinger. Into the YouTubes. It's a documentary about me moving here and meeting lots of St. Johners and then trying to fill Harbour Station. Emmett was the unsung hero of that project. As we know, editors are often the unsung heroes, but the editing on that is truly phenomenal. That is where the story came from, and that was all. And Emmett also then went on to edit the stand-up special, Anything Is Possible, which was sold to Amazon Prime. And I remember vividly after that show having, you might have read about this in my book, when I had a bit of a down period after these shows when I felt like people were turning against me because I was everywhere, all over the city, and people were kind of slagging me off to my face, slagging me off online. And Emmett said something really nice about what his dad had said about the show, which really cheered me up, and I never forgot that. And I even wrote the dad a note, and again, finally got to meet him last night. Anyway, I'll move on. We're going to go Profesh. Pretend we're at the beginning of the podcast. Bosh, it's Wednesday, 30th of July. So this is me, by the way, just doing an impression of a proper podcaster. I'm doing the sponsorship thing. Right, I'm doing the sponsorship thing. I'm doing it Profesh. This is Lighting Lounge's final week as of now. So let's do it Profesh and see what it sounds like for me to be real. Okay, let's do this. Okay, I'm gonna try and do it. Try and be a normal. Okay, James, be a normal. I often say this to myself. Be a normal. This kept happening at Yip last week. I was on stage. I kept hearing sounds, and I kept having to say, "Is that really happening, or is that in my head?" Like that is a sign that you are listening to and are friends with a complete mentalist. And I don't mean mentalist like mind reader. I mean mentalist like, maybe that's not a polite word anymore. Mentalist. Like other words are offensive. I mean, I guess because I am a whack job, I'm allowed to say whack job. Are you allowed to say? Is it like other is it like racial and homophobic epithets that if you are the thing, you're allowed to say the thing? Like, can I say nutter? Is that a word in England? Nutter means nutter. Yeah, again, it's not politically correct. So, I mean, I guess it's someone with mental. I always it always makes me chuckle when I drive into Hampton and I see Nutters accounting service. I'm sure they're not nutters. You wouldn't want a nutter doing your accounts, or maybe you would, depending on how much you had to hide. Okay, Profesh. Here we go. Bosh. Okay, we're 20 minutes in. Let's try and get. This is how a podcast's supposed to start. Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about something that's lighting up my life. Quite literally, we've got a brand new sponsor for the show. It's not brand new. This is what I should have done 2 weeks ago, incidentally. No, okay, no more interruptions. We've got a brand new sponsor for the show, the Lighting Lounge in Rothesay. Now, if you've ever been into the Lighting Lounge, where the old lighting shop, Light It Up, used to be, so do it normal. Do it like a normal human being would, James. Okay. Now, if you've ever been into the Lighting Lounge, you know it's not just a shop. It's like walking into a gallery of illumination, chandeliers, pendants, wall sconces. This place has more ways to brighten your home than I have bad jokes about St. John Winters, and believe me, that's saying something. That's good, isn't it? You're not supposed to read your own stuff, then laugh, then say that's good, isn't it? That is the most American podcast comedian. I bet that's the most Tony Hinchcliffe thing I've ever done. It was a bit Shane Gillis that, wasn't it? Laughing at my own. Anyway, profesh. Here's the thing. I'm obsessed with good lighting. It makes or breaks a room. I can deliver that better. Here's the thing. I'm obsessed with good lighting. It makes or breaks a room. You can have the most beautiful space in the world, but if it's lit like a crime scene, then it's going to feel like one. The Lighting Lounge get it. They curate fixtures that turn a room into an experience. And they're local. This isn't some big box chain or, heaven forbid, some outsider coming in from England or America. No. It's a Rothesay gem, run by people with names, real people with names and faces. Is that really a selling point? They have faces, people with faces. Did you know these are not people without faces? These are people. Profesh. And they're local. This isn't some big box chain. It's a Rothesay gem, run by people, Serge and Tiffany, who genuinely care about design and customer service. They'll help you find the perfect light for your home. And they actually know what they're talking about, which makes them the opposite of me on this podcast. So huge thanks to the Lighting Lounge for sponsoring the show. Quite literally, this show would not still be in existence were it not for Serge and Tiffany at the Lighting Lounge. So if you're anywhere near Rothesay, or even if you're not, it's worth the trip. Go in, check them out, and tell them you heard about it here on the podcast. Maybe they'll even let you flick a few switches for fun. Okay. Let's get to the show, and I will be actually in the Lighting Lounge next week, recording some videos, possibly doing some Instagram lives. I should also point out regarding the important lighting, you know how hard it is to get, you know how random it is, like getting a good picture on your phone, right? You know how like you can feel really great about yourself, and you go to an event, and then there's a professional photographer there, and they take a picture of you, and you go, holy shit, why do I look like that? Why does my angle look like that? Why have I got a bump there? Why do I've got sweat on my forehead? Why does my face look all red? All those questions. And a lot of that is lighting, and of course, when you've got perfect lighting in the home, you can find the right spot for a picture. Here's a question, right? Why don't schools teach photography anymore? Do you remember how when we were young? I've asked this before in the podcast, but you know how when I was a kid at school, they would teach us how to take pictures. Now, more than ever, every kid has got a shit-hot camera in their pocket on their phone. So why are kids so absolutely tragically diabolical at taking pictures? And again, my sons are highly brilliant people, skilled at many things, getting far better grades at school, doing great at math and science thanks to their amazing teachers, doing great at English thanks to their amazing ChatGPT, and my question is, why are we not teaching photography? Why is it that when you hand a child a phone, they don't know how to take a picture because they're so used to taking those awful selfies that go on the Snapchats? Anyway, that was one thing. There was another thing I was wondering why they don't teach in school anymore. Manners, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, so that was me being profesh. Okay, I'm going to quickly whiz through the last couple of weeks. I'll get to what went down. Now, okay, so 2 weeks ago I saw you. And then I hot-footed it too. Now, don't stop this. Now, as you know, I cancelled/postponed my tour dates in Maine. Not entirely on principle, partly because there is a lot of confusion over performing arts visas, and we did get to the bottom of it. I actually did get in touch with both the American consulate in Halifax, and indeed, very generously of her to actually respond and help me with this, was the governor of Maine, was very helpful. Now, in essence, there hasn't been a grey area, but lots of performers go over, flash their Canadian passports, go over, do shows and come back. Now, strictly speaking, obviously, in order to go and do a show in the States and be paid for it, and to go through the official, and I am not going to not go through the official. Lots of people are do this and have done this, and but I'm not going to break. Obviously, we're not going to break any rules right now, right? I mean, ever break any rules, but with things happening now, it's advisable. So I have been going through the path, and essentially, what I need is a P3 performing arts visa to perform in the States. So kind of ridiculously, but kind of unfairly, in order for me to go and do a show at a beautiful little art centre in a place like Eastport or a church in Holton, I need the same performing arts visa that like Mick Jagger needs to go and do a stadium tour of the Americas, which is tricky because, again, and I am willing to pay what needs to be paid. I'm willing to hire a lawyer. I'm willing to do all the things that need to be done, but I need a sponsor in the States to start the process. So if anyone knows anyone, let me know, because I think, frankly, the venues, when they booked, I'm not a big enough name to for them to bother with, frankly. But have too much social media presence to obviously be not doing things properly. So anyway, point being, I went to 2 weeks ago, Kennebunkport to meet some friends from England. Now, they had been planning to be there for about 2 years. They were meeting family there, long lost family members after losing someone. So it was an important thing. And it is my godson. So just to be clear, I'm not breaking the elbows up rule. I did pack as much. I did pack as many sandwiches and water as possible. So I'd be spending. I'm following the rules, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, we go to Kennebunkport, Maine, to see our friends. While we are there, I start to feel a bit of discomfort. I have my second. I'm using the lingo now, but the second molar from the back right. I had a root canal surgery done about 25 years ago in Battersea in South London. And for a few years now, Dr. Chase, my dentist, has been telling me there's a bit of infection down there. You really should get it looked at. Go and see a specialist in Moncton. He deals with root canal. Maybe he can fish out the infection to save the tooth. I, like an idiot, haven't listened. Thinking too busy, putting it off. Long story short, this infection, it starts off as a mild discomfort, which often would happen when I would bite a nut on it. Anyway, it transforms into the most agonizing pain I've ever experienced. Now, I should cover this by saying that at the time I was worrying, am I being a wimp? Am I being a bit pathetic? To give you an example, at one point we were sitting in a restaurant on a Sunday night, Arundel Wharf restaurant, actually, a beautiful restaurant on a boat, which one of my favourite places. It kind of reminds me of the restaurant in Summer Rental, the John Candy movie. I'm in so much pain, I have to run out of the restaurant to go into the car, lock the car door. I'm shivering. I have to pump up the heat, and so I can scream and cry at the top of my voice. So bad is the pain. I have that all night. I didn't make it. I arrived at a pharmacy 5 minutes after they closed. So all I'm taking for this is ibuprofen. Anyway, the pain is getting worse and worse. Now again, I'm worried. I feel bad. I'm at a dinner table with women who've given birth. I'm like, how pathetic is this? I'm crying about a tooth. Anyway, I will say that my dear friend Nat, who has both given birth and had this tooth pain, did say that she would rather give birth than go through this pain. So I'm not saying, but what I'm trying to say is that it turns out I was right about the pain. It is bad, and basically I'm kind of like a woman now. I've kind of given birth. So I'm with your sisters. I'm joking. Don't stop listening. I'm joking. Point is the pain was as bad. So we again, thanks to everyone who pulled out the stops. We basically hot fudge at home. 7-hour drive. I am screaming and crying the entire way. Go and see God bless New Brunswick dentists, just people just work. Basically pulling out the stops to help me out. By this point, the infection has grown so much that my face, I kid you not, I literally look like the Elephant Man. Like my entire cheek is out. It looks like Marlon Brando has taken all of the stuffing from his mouth when playing Don Corleone and put it all on one side. It is sticking out. Now, Dr. Chase then sends me to see Dr. Watson, not Sherlock Holmes' friend, Dr. Watson. This is Dr. Watson, again, an absolute legend and a life-saving hero. Turns out actually life-saving. Again, my kids are getting a bit annoyed with me saying I had a near-death experience. But, long story short, he said that another day and this vast lump growth on my face could have potentially blocked my windpipe. So, I kind of almost died, guys. So, guys, right? Guys. So, well, it was not on my bingo card for 2025. Death, dying, not on my bingo. Doesn't matter. Not enough, it matters. But of course, top of my list of worries is I'm there, I'm lying. So we go in. He says, what should we do? And I'm like, get the tooth out. So they knock me out on the spot. Not knock me out, then bash me over the head. It's not slapstick. It's not a Buster Keaton. It's Buster Keaton. That's an up-to-date cultural slapstick reference. I could have said anything there. Well, in England I would have said Bottom, the Rick Aid Edmondson show. Slapstick, Happy Gilmore. We're going to get to Happy Gilmore in a minute. Anyway, have a sip of coffee. Sorry. Okay, just getting to the point is, all I'm worried about is the gigs. Am I going to be able to do the Yip gigs? Ethan's here. 2 shows sold out. Doctor's orders are, obviously you can't do the gigs. Obviously, I'm going to do the gigs. We rip out the tooth. The swelling starts to go down. I'm lying in bed, still in agony, recovering from the op. Face still massive. Of course, priorities, you have to get priorities in order. So I get in touch with my friend at Staples and make sure that he blows up 3 ginormous pictures for me of my horrendous face so I can get some laughs out of my own misfortune, which really tells you everything you need to know about the ridiculousness of me and my job. My first thought when suffering and looking absolutely horrendous. It's weird. The pain was so bad, it didn't bother me that my whole face was disfigured. It didn't bother me that I was looking like the Elephant Man. And I just wanted to know that I would be able to speak by Thursday to do the gig. I had meetings about. So I mentioned that, but the debaters is coming back to the Maritimes. Interesting fact. For many years, everyone was trying to get the debaters to come to the Maritimes, and there was an understanding, which is it's steeped in some truth from historical, but basically there's a belief often that it's hard to sell tickets in the Maritimes for shows. So for many years, the debaters didn't come here. Many people worked. I should tell you who worked very hard to make this happen. The first time round, about 6 years ago, was Elke. Do you remember Elke? She was the producer and the husband of Hans Colburn, who was the CBC radio host here in St. John. Anyway, it came and the debaters came to the Imperial Theatre, and it was the fastest ever sellout. So it's one of these amazing things where they don't come because they think it's not going to sell. And then St. John's and New Brunswickers prove them wrong. Sells out record time. So September, Tuesday, 16th of September, Debaters is at the Imperial Theatre in St. John, and I am doing that one. And I'm facing off against one of the best comedians around. And on the Thursday, the 18th, I'm doing it at the Confederation Centre for the Arts in Charlottetown. And the following day, I'm getting up and driving to Campbellton to perform that night at the Campbellton Comedy Fest, and the following night at the Campbellton Comedy Fest, and then the following week I'm in Kingston, and that weekend I'm at the Playhouse in Fredericton. Anyway, just a new tour date was announced, by the way. It might be sold out already, but there might be a couple of tickets there. But I'm doing on the Saturday, the 6th of September. I'm playing a very small, community hall type place in Cow Bay, Nova Scotia. Again, always wanted to go to Cow Bay. Amazing writer R.C. Shaw runs the Cow Bay concert series. I knew he'd had some of the best musicians in the country. The Joel Plaskett's there. I was keen to do it, and we put it on. So I'm going off the point here. What's the bloody point? Debaters is coming here is the point. So I had a meeting anyway. So I had a meeting about the debaters. And then on the Thursday, I did a keynote actually for my friend Kat LeBlanc, who is the daughter of the renowned and much missed late Jane LeBlanc. In honor of her mum, Kat set up the Jane LeBlanc Legacy Fund, and basically the aim of this of the fund is to basically nurture and support creatives. and indeed create, not just artists but also organisations and events in New Brunswick and the Atlantic region. So they basically advance education by providing, mentorship, training, development, and workshops to creative artists for film, photography, dance, theatre, music, craft, visual art, writing, and other art forms. Comedy should be on that list. And really, Kat's goal, as her role as the chairman president of the Silverway Film Festival, is to advance the public's appreciation of the arts by supporting artistic presentations in public places, senior citizens' homes, churches, community centres, and educational institutions. She very kindly invited me to do a keynote about working towards your creative aspirations, which I delivered on the same day. It was on the same day as the Yip gig, so I'm still recovering from the face surgery, from the tooth removal. It was an absolute joy. Actually, I think the day before, I also had an interview with Monocle magazine back in London. There's a great show, by the way, if you like print media, print magazines, The Stack, hosted by a wonderful gentleman named Fernando, one of the most charming hosts you could ever hope to listen to. Speaking of podcasts, what is with all the podcast hosts appearing in Happy Gilmore too? We'll get to Happy Gilmore. So yes, did an interview about the new issue of Edit with Fernando, again, while still in severe pain. But again, I kind of in a dream, I don't like postponing things. So anyway, did the keynote. One of my main messages with that is as with a lot of my keynotes, it's kind of, put pen to paper. Don't make it all about, in this age of AI and social, there is never a better time for personal connections. It's why, Lady Catherine's card to me, will sit here. And actually, amazingly, I don't think he'll mind me reading this out. Well, I won't read it out. I'll just say I had a wonderful letter in the mail yesterday from Colin Fowlie, who is actually not only one of the best musicians in the country, but I didn't realize that he is also one of the producers and mentors on the Jane LeBlanc Legacy Fund. And he describes it here as one of the most rewarding pieces of work I've done in recent years. I can't read the next bit because it's a compliment, again, against the rules, but as he says, Kat is a powerhouse who is having a huge impact on the arts community in New Brunswick, which is absolutely true. She's been incredibly encouraging to me. It was Kat who actually very kindly got City on Fire. Again, everything's connected. City on Fire, the CBC documentary I mentioned, that Hemmings House was so ingeniously edited by Emmett St. Pierre, son of Lady Catherine. Kat put City on Fire in the Silverway Film Festival 8 years ago, and it was that led to me getting my first big theatre booking by the Playhouse back then. Again, it's all connected. Anyway, Colin, one of the things I talk about is putting pen to paper, something I did many years ago to Kate Winslet, and started a pen-pal relationship with Kate Winslet that lasted a very long time. And Colin, it's very nice. I mean, again, to receive a letter, Colin, I'm truly like a massive fan of his. Many of you know he's hugely critically acclaimed alt-country troubadour. He has performed all over Canada and the USA. Oh, I should point out that regarding me trying to perform in USA, I had an amazing amount of help from a very, very kind PEI musician who, it was just so incredibly, it's funny how I hate asking people for help, and I feel bad asking for help often, and often don't do it, and you don't realize often how people really, really actually sometimes do kind of want to help. Anyway, I just want to say, sincerely, thank you to Catherine, who I cannot believe the amount of time and effort she kindly put into advising me to essentially on the process. And again, I mean, I think part of the problem is obviously a lot of musicians are in these amazing musicians unions, and I just wish that there was, well, I guess there kind of is a comedy version of this, but okay, anyway, Colin Fowlie, check out his work. His full-length album Party Music is one of the best albums out of Atlantic Canada ever. He's won Music MB Awards, SoCan Song of the Years. He actually co-founded Eastern Nowhere Songsmiths in 2023, which is a boutique recording studio and artist services agency with the goal of helping independent artists create compelling recordings of songs that deserve to be heard. So, what is my point? So yes, I did that keynote, lots of fun. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. I'm excited to announce that I'm going to be recording, I think I can say this now, recording my next stand-up special next year at the Rebecca Cohen Theatre in Halifax. I'm working with one of the legends in the industry, Brooks Diamond and Fiona Diamond, two of the nicest people I've ever met. Fiona Diamond is just truly one of the most, she founded the Halifax Comedy Festival 30 years ago. So we're going to be working together. It's going to be my biggest show in Halifax to date, Rebecca Cohen. Anyway, so I'm going to get to the point. Thursday did the Ipsider show. Very fun. Lovely audience. Thank you very much. My son Hunter, by the way, opened for me. Absolutely did great on Thursday, but on Friday night, absolutely bona fide ripped the roof off. Last night when I got in from the Hampton gig, we showed my wife the footage. It is off the charts incredible. He got 3 or 4 massive applause breaks in the space of like 3 minutes. So he did both shows, went well, but although my desperation I mentioned earlier to do all new material kind of screwed me over a bit, and I should, in theory, be doing... Sorry, the bit I missed was, of course... Sorry, the point I missed was that when we went over... I can say this now. No one... when we went over the border, to the Calais main border, my name got flagged, and we got pulled into... border security, and they are Googling my name and asking about, well, what about the Halton gig? Is that happening? Is that happening? What about the Eastport? Everything. And I'm, of course, absolutely bricking. My kids are sat there, somewhat finding it amusing. I'm finding it terrifying because some of the jokes that I've made. Anyway, they searched the car. Luckily, they accepted that we were going there just for a couple of days, vacation / visit with friends. I wasn't working. It was slightly scary. They didn't go through our phones, I will say that, but they are, the thing that you hear, they are, the Googles is being used. So yeah, I was flagged. Essentially, weirdly, whether I'm flagged because I've been asking the questions about how to work there, I don't know. On the Trump thing, so the Epstein thing is obviously going off the charts crazy. Trump is essentially now, having made the Epstein thing such a big deal, he was going to release the files before he got elected, and now obviously for the first time ever, his base of, wouldn't it be interesting to meet someone that was on his, you see some of these bellends like Andrew Schultz saying, oh, I can't believe this is happening, this is not what I voted for. It's like, what the hell did you think you were voting for? And seeing the Rogans and the kind of those far right wing networks, the networks that are to the right of Fox News. So what's going to happen? I mean, clearly Ghislaine Maxwell is going to get. Here's my prediction, and this is what's going to happen. Ghislaine Maxwell, who is clearly, obviously guilty and well deserving of her 25 years of for sex trafficking with her former partner Epstein. Trump will offer her a pardon in exchange for her lying and saying that Trump's not in the files. I mean, it is so insane that, and also what is weird about Trump hiding these files is that his supporters, and again, I'm not being rude to anyone that's listening, but his supporters wouldn't care if he was. They forgive everything. They've already forgiven rape, payoffs, lying, cheating, stealing, corruption, theft, not paying taxes, shagging a porn star, lying about it. They've forgiven all those things. If Trump's name was top of the Epstein files, is it not fair to say that if these people are still on board with Trump now, surely it is not gonna be like, oh well, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. I think they'd probably forgive him. So he's digging himself into a bigger hole. Anyway, He's going to get out of it. He gets out of everything. So the Teflon Don, he does make John Gotti look unlucky. He's going to give Ghislaine Maxwell a full pardon in exchange for giving him names, and those names will coincidentally be a list of names of people he hates, Bill Clinton, whoever else, and she will unequivocally say that Trump absolutely has never ever had sex with anyone ever. I mean, it's just amazing how he gets away with it, but how tone deaf he is. The fact that today he is saying that him and Epstein fell out over, and then he's reminding everyone of the poor girl who Prince Andrew had sex with underage, who then killed herself. I mean, the fact that he wouldn't see anyway, depressing. But on the plus side, again, not on the plus side of that, but again, trying to bring positive back around. Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson might be dating. Liam Neeson, of course, tragically lost his wife Natasha Richardson in a terrible skiing accident. Banged her head, thought she was all right. 2 days later, blood. A tragic story. Pamela Anderson, obviously, as we know, Canadian hero, Canadian princess, had a not an easy life, and now might be dating. And let's hope The Naked Gun is a brilliant film. I think it will be. What's weird with the Trump thing is that I, as you know, have had a loathing my entire life due to being bullied relentlessly as a child. I hate bullies. And I don't necessarily mean just like, but it's just so depressing that bullies have become, more so than ever in history, it's become not just accepted but celebrated. Like CEOs, as we know, presidents, politicians, like never, and again, I mean, obviously, I find the schoolyard kind who nick your lunch money or trip you up in the corridor, they are deplorable. But I'm talking about the bullies who run the world, the ones in suits, the ones with nuclear codes, the ones with more money than empathy. It's such a tragic. Now, basically, I would say in the last decade, I've watched this incredibly grim thing happen, which is we've gone from celebrating. I remember a decade ago we would celebrate decency in life, and now we tolerate cruelty. And it's kind of like, when you're at that dinner party and someone says something absolutely outrageous, and instead of everyone going, what the hell did you say? Everyone politely sips their wine and move on. It's that, but on a global scale. Like Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, sitting with Trump, and Trump slagging off Sadiq Khan, who incidentally was a good friend of mine, Mayor of London, been elected 3 times. Some people don't like him, but he was actually very calm. When Hunter was born and Pam's parents visited from the peninsula, Sadiq Khan gave us a private tour of the House of Commons himself. Trump hates Trump hates Sadiq Khan, because we can guess why. And Sadiq Khan doesn't stand for his BS. Trump sits there saying he's done a terrible job. Keir Starmer just sits there grinning like a bozo. And granted, you can't get into a fight. You can't necessarily pull a Love Actually, Hugh Grant, Billy Bob Thornton every time. But to sit there and let someone slag off your mayor, no thanks. But we're basically living in an age of bullies. And the big question is how do we all lead moral lives and teach young people to lead moral lives when the people at the top seem to have set fire to the moral handbook and used it to light their cigars? I mean, look around. You've got Putin waging a horrendous war in the Ukraine. Gaza being bombed to smithereens. Trump kidnapping hardworking people, throwing them in detention camps, splitting families apart. It's like some grotesque game of Jenga. His immigration agents like targeting people based on the shade of the color of their skin, like we're in some kind of dystopian nightmare version of Guess Who. And not just warlords or dictators. It's we've got CEOs raking in like record profits, paying their employees in loose change. Powerful men abusing women, in some cases children. We've got politicians making it harder for women to access safe abortions. We've got billionaires writing checks so big they can basically buy their own laws. I mean, you and I forget to pay a parking ticket and we're hunted like criminals, but they can literally purchase legislation and get a receipt for it. Every single one of these abuses of power is like a signal to the next bully in line. Go on, mate, have at it. No rules here. Do what you like. And each time it happens, the social fabric frays a bit more. It's a bit like AI. Every single time we feed something into AI, we're giving a bit of our soul to the devil. And here's the thing about fabric. Once it starts to unravel, it doesn't politely stop halfway. It comes apart at the seams. And that, to me, is what's happening in society right now. And this isn't like, I'm not being political, this isn't left or right. It's not parties or labels, it's right and wrong. And there used to be that on both sides. You know, I didn't used to agree with George W. Bush. I do think, though, he did what he thought was right. So how do the rest of us lead moral lives in an age of bullies? I mean, we can do everything to stop the brutality, and we can try and hold the powerful accountable, but how? We can protect the vulnerable. But I think we've got to speak out when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. It's not about being perfect. It's really about resisting. And I just pray that in our children's lifetimes, we can go back to a world where decency isn't just like an optional extra, where kindness is seen as weakness, where I want to see a world where bullies don't get the last word. Anyway, sorry, Ramblers. That is my rant for the day. Go forth, be moral, be loud, and for God's sake, don't let the bastards win. I have to go in 7 minutes, so I will just say... and just like that, have the scriptwriters and just like that even ever seen Sex and the City before? What the hell has happened to the characters? Miranda acts like a 12-year-old girl. She was like the smartest, most brilliant 20-something woman in Sex and the City, and they've completely ruined her character. Okay, Happy Gilmore 2. I will say on Sunday, we went to the Hill Nursery. Have you been there? I think I went. I did a gig there a few weeks ago. We went there for lunch at the Cedar Cafe. Actually, after that, when we got back, my wife and I biked to Reeds Point Pub. Beautiful bike ride, by the way. Biking from Rosso Road, along Gondola Point Road, getting on the ferry boat, and then getting into Reeds Point Pub. What a beautiful way to enjoy the views of the Kennebecasis River, the majestic Gondola Point Ferry, and then the delights of by the way, the new Don Air wrap out the Reeds Point Pub. They used to have a Don Air, now it's a Don Air wrap. Hats off to Lisa and everyone at Reeds Point Pub, by the way. The Don Air wrap is absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, the Kingston Challenge burger is still the way you should always go. Speaking of Hampton Brewing Company, which I was earlier, they do have their cream ale on tap at Reeds Point Pub. Anyway, great time. Okay, very quick hot tips. I was listening to my wife was listening to the Mel Robbins podcast the other day, and I overheard her interviewing this guy called Will Packer, and he was talking about healthy arrogance, and it was basically like having a healthy arrogance and a confidence. And I have to say, what I hate about these podcasts, where these interviews with even the smartnesses, right, where these rich people who basically won the lottery, kind of metaphorically, figuratively telling the rest of you got to do this, you got to do that, if you want to be successful you got to do that. It's like, you won the fucking lottery, mate. Like, let's not pretend like there's a million talented people out there, and of those talented people, you won the lottery. So it's not because you worked harder, or because you did this, or because you did that. Everyone else did what you did. You won the lottery. Don't tell us what to do, you bastards. And I would say this, and I listen to all these podcasts. I don't listen to all of them. I hear them in the background and grow increasingly agitated. My advice, which you won't hear in a Mel Robbins podcast, I don't think, is that I've noticed this, and I was guilty of this in the early part of this podcast, and I apologize. If you are with someone who says I in every sentence, I did this, I that, then you're with a narcissist. So they're not the best person to be around. And if you, it is a good rule for life. If you are realizing that you are saying I in every sentence, then you're a wanker, is my helpful Mel Robbins. I could release a self-help book called Don't Be a Wanker. Little tip, if you're looking for a great musician to listen to, you know, sometimes you can not like something and then you do like it. Graham Norton had this singer on called Lola Young, who I thought, what is this? She's just talking. But I thought, well, Mike Skinner is one of my favourite musicians, The Streets, and he's kind of just talking, and rapping is obviously talking to him. Anyway, her song, she sang this song, which I've grown to absolutely, it's called Messy, 2024. She's become MESSY. Lola Young, incredible story. She's only 24. She's become absolutely huge. You might have heard her. Her music plays on the wave, and I didn't realize this. She suffered lots of mental health problems, and her great artist is actually Julia Donaldson, the greatest author of all time, author of The Gruffalo. Speaking of the greatest children's author of all time, greatest author of all time is, of course, Irvine Welsh. Men in Love is out now in England. It is out now to listen to on Audible. It's the sequel to Trainspotting. There's already been sequels. There was a prequel, Scad Boys. There was another a sequel called Porno. But the sequel, the real sequel, which picks up right after Renton stole the money from Sick Boy, Spud and Begbie, is out now. And today, it's not tomorrow, it's today, when I'm driving to PEI, I'm listening to that. Tamdeen Byrne, who narrates these books, is incredible. Anyway, Lola Young, listen to it. She's represented by a manager, Nick Shemaisky, who never wanted to manage another artist after his biggest artist, Amy Winehouse, tragically passed, and he met Lola Young and fell in love with her music. Anyway, Lola Young, messy, that's my tip. Don't say I in every sentence. Went to Cornhill Nursery, by the way. If you haven't been, Cornhill Nursery, absolutely gorgeous. It's literally 65 acres of cultivation and nearly 1,000 varieties of plant. It's basically one of the nicest drives you'll ever take. Four Corners, Sussex, about 20 minutes, 30 minutes from there. It's the largest plant production nursery east of Montreal, owned by Bob Osborne and his wife Kathleen. Bob was born in Connecticut. He moved to Markham, New Brunswick with his wife Kathleen and their friends, Beth and Peter Pounding, in 1970. Beth Pounding, of course, award-winning author. Peter Pounding, of course, award-winning artist. Enthralled by the beauty around him, Bob made furniture and began growing and grafting apple trees in 1980. He and his family moved to Cornhill. The food's incredible. The gluten-free pizzas are off the charts. It's one of the most beautiful places, I would say, in the world. Go there. Happy Gilmore 2, we finally got there. Weirdly mixed reviews. I read a review of, I think it's Daily Beast, said it's the worst sequel of all time. They said arguably the least inspired film in the actor's canon, if not all of movie history. Director Carl Newacek's follow-up is a cinematic abomination devoid of imagination, skill, or purpose, floundering about for a criminally long 114 minutes in search of a single laugh. My son Hunter and I watched it. My wife and my other son River watched it, didn't love it. Hunter and I watched it. Obviously, it's not as good as the first one. Obviously, yes, they're rehashing, old jokes. We did enjoy it. There's stuff that's Bad Bunny, surprisingly good. Well, not surprisingly good, very good. I'm assuming he hasn't got acting experience. Weird things like I didn't recognize Travis Kelce at first. So in that scene where he's the waiter, I'm like, what's the joke here? Why is nothing that waiter doing funny? What's the joke? I couldn't figure it out. Then I realized it's Travis Kelce, and that's where the tragedy of shit, like lame celebrity cameos doesn't work. Is these people can't act. I mean, none of those golfers, obviously they're golfers, not supposed to act. They're brilliant golfers. None of them can act. But Travis Kelce in that scene, shame on Sandler and his crew for going, oh, we got Travis Kelce, great. Let's not bother writing any jokes around the scene. Just him being in the scene is funny enough. It's not. Again, how is it that Kevin Nealon has nothing funny to say? How come Ben Stiller has nothing funny to say? How come Steve Buscemi doesn't have a single funny line? However, I have to say, I really, really enjoy it. And obviously the critics had opinions. The setup is basically 30 years later, Happy Gilmore is now alcohol-soaked, dead. His wife's passed. That happens in the first minute. It's not a spoiler. He's broke. He's trying to find his daughter's ballet school in Paris. Same old Happy, just greyer and more existential. It is quite funny how he keeps hiding booze everywhere. Although, is alcoholism really a laughing matter? No, probably not. But it's a Happy Madison production, or whatever that production is called. Esquire said they loved every single minute of it. Embraced the chaos, the cameos, the family themes. I mean, one line I thought was absolutely hilarious was Benny Safdie's character, the golfing. It's also weird because in the original, the whole point of the joke is that he is bringing the violence and the anarchy of hockey to the golfing world. But now Happy is kind of supporting the establishment and is anti the new way. So it's kind of weirdly contradictory. Also, Happy's aggressive behavior has been toned down, which is weird. But one thing one of the funniest things is when this running joke that Benny Safdie's character has terrible breath, and he does this kind of breathing to open a gate, like a fingerprint thing, like open a security door. and it says fart detected on the screen. I have to say that I found absolutely hilarious. Tells you everything you need to know about me. Yeah, some people loved it. Cinema Blend said it was a heartfelt tribute with plenty of laughs. Esquire said loved every single minute. So Rotten Tomatoes, it lands. These obviously doesn't really mean anything, but basically, it sits at 65%, which is about average. For me, I felt it was a bit like being invited to your school reunion, only to find that everyone's still wearing their old gym strip and retelling the same prank from '96. I mean, there's nostalgia, quite a few chuckles, stuff with cameos. Again, the Travis casting, not funny. Other things, every person that called it a love letter is the original. Others said it's just lazy filmmaking, recycled gags, hollow nostalgia, and zero risk. I liked it. Had fun. Wasn't expecting Godfather Part 2. If you were expecting that, probably a moron. No offense, anyone that thought that. That's the ramble. I've got to go. I've got 7 minutes to get to Garden Grove Cafe. I'm sure I can do it. If you're coming to the PEO show tonight, shoot me a message. Thank you all very much for listening. Send me any questions. I think that's it. Sending the magazine to print next week, so I'll give you a rundown of what's in that. I don't think there's anything else to share. I'm looking around my desk at things I'm supposed to be looking at. We do have the bilingual edition of the magazine in my hand, and also a very special edition of the mag that we actually printed for the egg farmers of New Brunswick, who have their annual national conference happening in New Brunswick next month. I'm both the keynote speaker, closing stand-up, and I guess editor of the magazine that accompanies that conference. Thanks for listening, everyone. You know how much it means to me. That was exactly 1 hour. Pretty good going. I'll see you all soon. Lots of love. Thank you very much. Christina, Jessica, I'll see you in 6 minutes. Bye, everyone. Love you very much. Cheers.